Hey friends, it's your favorite uncle here with episode 2 of 5 Up, 5 Down. Before we get started, I'm recording this after because apparently all of our slick new graphics packages have the pluses and minuses upside down. So just believe my words and not what the graphics say when it's the thing that like flips over and goes, woo. Other than that, I'm really looking forward to getting into this. I think there's some really great stuff. Please, if you can, like and subscribe. If you can't, you have no hands. I don't want this to be offensive to the handless community. Oh God, I've gone off the rails. Here we go. Is episode 2 of 5 Up, 5 Down, where we look at Innistrad Midnight Hunt and the shifting meta that is occurring even now this late in the format. These are 5 cards that have improved their game in hand win rate, which I think is arguably the best statistic if you're just looking at how good is this card according to 17 lands data. Then we'll also look at the 5 cards that fell the most, and there are some cards that we've been talking about on episode 1 in here too. So let's just jump right in, and we'll start with our 5 ups. Coming in at number 5, gaining 2.4%, is Immolation. This was on our list of cards that was getting more play last week, and I think this one's interesting because it's an efficient answer to a lot of early plays that you see. In this format, you really don't want to be losing mana on getting answers to things, and so just make sure that you keep a decent mana advantage and still being able to answer things like Gavany Trapper or Scob Wrangler, like these little threats that actually have pretty powerful effects. I think it's really important, and Immolation is one of the best ways to do that. Now, I think that a lot of people say, hey, if you're in red, then you want to be in red spells, whatever whatever flavor of red it is. Ryan Spain was talking about this on Limited Resources, and you go, well, here's Immolation. It's not an instant, it's not a sorcery, so it doesn't really count towards any of my spell things. What's the deal? I think that once you get into your spells, whether you're talking about Moonragers / or, and it always sounds like I'm saying Moonragers / Revenge of the Drowned, Burn the Accursed. These are all cards that are able to kind of trade even, or sometimes even up on mana. I guess Burn the Accursed is never trading up on mana. If it is, you're feeling great. But these are cards that are going to be pretty neutral, but you don't want to be using your Burn the Accursed on a Scob Wrangler. And so Immolation's just a nice little answer. The other thing that I found really interesting is the almost 3% IWD number here, and that's improvement when drawn. So you're getting almost 3% improvement on your likelihood to win the game when you're drawing this, and that's usually not something that you see from a card like Immolation that is kind of like, what are those that you're like, this doesn't seem like a great top deck. So obviously there's something going on here that makes it pretty interesting and makes it something that you want to cast even a little bit later in the game. Number 4 on our list, and this gained 3%, is Abandon the Post. Now, this was previously a number 4 on our biggest losers last week. So, for me, this is probably just a correction where you've got Abandon the Post just had a bad week for whatever. It was down, I want to say 2.4% last week. Here it's up 3%. So this is just, regression to the mean for a card that is, again, just fine. Not great. Not a card that I'm excited or looking to play in my red decks. Can sometimes just be something that you get for free if you manage to bin it somehow, but I wouldn't take this as a big sign like, oh God, I gotta go out and start playing all the Abandon the Posts I can get my fucking hands on. Like, it's just not, I think, where you want to be. So we'll just say, hey, it is what it is. Now, going up a whopping 3% over 3.1%, Dawnheart Rejuvenator. Now, this is a card that just continues to shine after being really overlooked in the beginning of the format. This also was on our list of cards that was a little bit on the upswing last week, and we're seeing week over week positive growth here. So I would definitely think more about putting Dawnheart Rejuvenator in your decks, and also think about splashing a little bit more. There are some decent cards that you can splash off a single pip when you're in like a Simic X deck. And Dawnheart Rejuvenator gets you any of those. When you combine this with like a Root Coil Creeper, then you can pretty much, you make any mana that you want to. So you combine that with Evolving Wilds, Eccentric Farmer. You can play things like Mystic Key or Moonlit, whatever, or Moon Silver Key. Maybe that's the other one. Mystic Skull, Moon Silver Key. You can play those as like secondary options, but I don't think that you really have to look at this, 3 to 5 color green deck as something that needs a ton of different splashing. Ideally, you're getting like 2 Evolving Wilds, Eccentric Farmer, and then a couple cards like Dawnheart and Root Coil Creeper that will just give you an opportunity to cast things that are going to be super powerful. And again, this is a card that's going like way too late. I also want to note that like 3.5 IWD is really impressive. You'll get this as a card that's going to gain you life right away, so it stabilizes. It's got a big old butt on it and helps you accelerate your late game. Get to your Shadow Beast sightings a turn earlier when you're looking to really turn the corner against maybe some faster decks like Azorius, Disturbed Skies. So I continue to be impressed by Dawnheart Rejuvenator, and I think that people need to be paying more attention to it. Up next in the number 2 slot, and this is a card that gained a whopping 3.5%, is Candlelit Cavalry. And this was an honorable mention from last week. It was like right on the cusp. It improved 1.8%, and now you've got it up 3.5%. So that's 5% in the last 2 weeks. I think that really speaks to how you're probably looking to play this over Tireless Hauler whenever possible, so you don't have to worry about day-night shenanigans. I think that the Coven ability it doesn't have a 0 effect, that sometimes that you'll just be looking to get in for trample damage, especially if you're playing, and I feel like I'm using Azorius Disturbed for every example, but it is kind of the deck to beat right now. And so if you can trample over, a bait hook angler that they're just looking to disturb back up, then that's real value. And there aren't a ton of ways in green to push over chump blockers, and these decks can just throw them at you, and all of a sudden you're just like, oh, another Lunarch veteran. So I think that, hey, it's Circovitz, what's up? This is just a card that I think was underrated by the community, and 5% game in hand win rate improvement in 2 weeks. Very cool. And then our number 1 largest gainer has gained 4.9%. Bounding Wolf. So you look at Bounding Wolf as, I think, something that a lot of people wrote off as a marginal green common that all of a sudden is looking like one of the better green commons. And so when we try and think of reasons for that, I think it might be this, Flash Reach. And Flash Reach, when you have a lot of people that are chipping in for, this, kind of what becomes meaningful damage over the, long term with Azorius Skies deck. Like, hey, splashing out an Updog and just going like, all right, send in your, transformed angler or your disturbed angler. Like, couldn't care less. Let's go. So I think that this might be. I don't think that it's like necessarily a 5% better card than it was last week, but I think that people are utilizing it a little bit more, and the way that the meta has shifted is just giving you a little bit of extra value here. So, I still see, Updog going a little bit later than I think a lot of people would expect, based on what I'm seeing. But I don't know. I don't think that you're like going, oh, sorry, Eccentric Farmer, I need my dogs. So definitely consider it. I don't think that it's like a bad, 15th creature or, 23rd card. All right, now let's go to our 5 down. And we're going to start with, our smallest loser of the week, but loser none the same, dropping 2.1% game in hand win rate, Mounted Dread Knight. We don't like Mounted Dread Knight, do we? I don't think that this is what you want to be doing in this slot. I think that you're praying for at least a Diregraph Horde over this, because this is a card that is pretty, average to below rate unless you're guaranteeing that you're getting that +1/+1 counter. Now, I guess that same trample rule does apply. There are times when you want this, but 5/4 just, I don't wake up for that in this format. Or I don't get out of bed for it. I do wake up and then I hit snooze and I'm right back out. So, I don't think that there are a lot of people playing this, but sub 50% game in hand win rate on 17 lands is, yeah. So yeah, just play fewer mounted Dread Knights, that's about all I gotta say about that. Coming in at number 4, this card also lost 2.1%, is Blood Pact. I came in just like kind of lukewarm on Blood Pact at the beginning of this format. I think that when you're talking about a divination that also costs you 2 life and means that you're not doing anything proactive that term isn't good in this format. Like, that's not something that you should actively be excited about. I guess being able to cast it as instant speed is not insignificant, but in general, like, so many of your creatures in Midnight Hunt already give you a cool bonus on ETB, or are leaving behind another token. And so, like, if you're doing something and not affecting the board, it's hard for me to get too excited about that. So I certainly think that this is a playable card, but if you had told me at the beginning of this format that I would rather have No Way Out over a Blood Pact, I would have told you to leave, to leave, get out. But at the end of the day, the zombie token that No Way Out leaves behind is a significant thing, and you just want to be able to have some way to attack people's hands rather than drawing a bunch of cards yourself. So again, consider Blood Pact less. This text was a little bit surprising for me. Coming in at number 3, losing 2.2%, is Unblinking Observer. And I guess I've been very meh on this card. I think when you look at opportunities to ramp, even if it's just your spells and then potentially your disturbed cards, it's not awful. Usually you're getting this on a 1/3 or 1/2 body, and so being able to have 2 power seemed relevant. But I think you've got a lot of people out there playing Neonate's Rush, which I just eats the Observer's breakfast. It's not happy about just having that 1 toughness, and so you go if this is a bear, I might like it a little bit more. This doesn't go in every blue deck, and I think that the big mistake I see people making is tossing this in an Is It Spells deck, where I don't think it's as good as something like Simic that's dedicated to getting your flashback going, and so going turn 2 Observer, turn 3 Shadow Beast sighting, and then being able to get that sighting back a little bit faster. So when I see people that include this in an Azorius or Dimir deck, I just go wow, you were short playables, huh? Because that's really the only conclusion I can come to. In spells decks, it can be just fine, but yeah, I think that people just are probably a little too high on Unblinking Observer. And this next card is one that I also think people have been duped on, and it's our number 2 biggest loser coming in. This card lost 4.2%, Otherworldly Gaze. I think this is definitely a victim of the pro effect, where there were a lot of really good players going yeah, I'll play an Otherworldly Gaze, maybe up to 2, and then people just started jamming it in decks that it didn't belong in and that don't utilize it correctly. So here's what I think you want to be doing with Otherworldly Gaze. Never casting it. If you can get this into your graveyard for free, either in a Simic deck where you've got a farmer, or in an Azorius Skies deck where you're going to be doing just a lot of self-mill naturally, then I think that Gaze can have a home in there. But I feel like this is one of those people were being too result oriented about it and just going oh, this is great, look at all the stuff I just tossed into my bin, and it feels like I'm getting free cards just from the disturb and flashback value that I'm finding here. But I don't want to be cast like doing a spell where I'm doing a turn where I'm double spelling with this to try and get like a festival crasher huge just feels like a lot of wheel spinning, and I want cards that give me a full card's worth of value, if not more, in this format. So, I mean, losing 4% is significant, and so just make sure that you understand Otherworldly Gaze before it goes into your deck. I don't think it's just an auto include. And then our final card, our number one biggest loser, a whopping 4.7%, Pax Betrayal. I don't know how many people are playing Pax Betrayal. I don't know under what circumstances they're playing it, why they think that this is a card that goes into a deck. I have tried to make Rakdos Pax Betrayal work. It hasn't come together. I've had like a really good ratio in terms of sack outlets to Pax Betrayals. I don't know. I just don't think there's enough support for this deck, especially when you consider that really your only super cheap sack outlet that you can get consistently is Eaten Alive, and you are going to have people fighting you for that card. Otherwise, Ecstatic Awakener, sure, it is a card that you can sacrifice to, but you need, 6 mana up, and that's not nothing. The Morkrut Behemoth, what are you waiting until you have 8 mana to like steal their thing and like then sack it to Behemoth? Like, that's not, I don't think, a viable game plan for anybody. So, in general, I don't think that anybody needs to hear this, but if you're trying to make the Pax Betrayal deck happen, stop making it happen. Okay, that's been 5 up, 5 down. This is a real easy breezy one. Really, thanks to everybody that left comments and checked out the video and have continued interest in what's going on with the Midnight Hunt meta, because it's... it was pretty interesting just to hear people go, hey, I'm curious what's going on here. So we'll see you next week. And again, if you want to watch, it's twitch.tv/UncleCardboard. Be here live like Circovitz did, who's the only cool person in the club. Hey everybody, it's your favorite uncle, reminding you to check out the Open Draft Project, where I sit down with your favorite pros, streamers, and limited grinders. They do the exact same draft seat, and then we see what's going on in their heads. If you are brand new to draft, or you're like me and draft way too much, there's always something that you can take away from this series where we talk to some of the greatest draft minds in the world. Check it out.